What's up, everybody? I am back with a new movie review, and today I'll be covering the Disney animated film Hercules. Perfect timing because they are planning on making some kind of live action Disney Hercules. Don't know when. There's no official trailer, but there is like hard talks about that right now, and strong consideration that is happening. So I thought it would be best to make sure I put a review of the original animated classic beforehand. Before I continue, please do me a huge favor and like this video. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think of the original animated film. Follow me on my YouTube and Twitch channel as I do video game walkthroughs, reaction videos, and spoiler review videos. Anywho, this is a Disney property, obviously, and is directed by John Musker and Ron Clements. And it stars Tate Donovan as Hercules, Josh Keaton, didn't know he voice acted this long, who voices the young teenage Hercules, Danny DeVito as Phil Philatites, James Woods as Hades, one of the best Disney villains ever, Susan Egan as Megara, or Meg, Rip Torn as Zeus, Samantha Eager as Hera, Lydia White, Cheryl Freeman, La Chains, Roz Ryan, and Venice Thompson as the Muses. Bobcat Goldthwait and Matt Fuhr plays Pain and Panic. Patrick Penny as the Cyclops. Hal Holbrook and Barbara Barry plays Amphitryon and Alchemy, not Alchemy, but Alchemy, plays Hercules' adopted parents. Amanda Plummer, Carol Shelley, and Patty Edwards voices Clotho, Lechis, Atropos, the Three Fates. Paul Schaefer voices Hermes. Jim Cummings as Nessus. Chris Bailey served as the animator. Cummings also voiced Tall Thebian and Elderly Thebian. Wayne Knight as Demetrius. So, this had a budget of $85 million. Came out of the box office a little over $250 million. So obviously a massive success. Based off the Greek story or the character of Hercules. With obviously, can't speak. Obviously, some liberties were taken with this character and the lore around him. We'll get to that in a second. But the movie begins with the birth of Hercules between Hera and Zeus, which already is a error on the movie's part. But Hera is not Hercules' mom. Somebody else was Hercules' mom, because Zeus, if you know your mythology, had multiple children from various different women because he is a bit of a player in Greek history and fathered a lot of children, much to Hera's dismay because she didn't obviously approve for her husband's philandering. So through most of Hercules' adventures, Hera is primarily not the soul, but primarily the antagonist to a lot of Hercules' exploits. Matter of fact, a few things that Hades do in this film, in the mythology, Hera has done. But they couldn't have that in a kids show. obviously they couldn't put in the fact that Zeus is banging a lot of women and fathering a bunch of kids in a film like this. So they have this massive party. Zeus creates Pegasus for like a baby Pegasus for as a companion for Hercules, and obviously, if you know your mythology, Pegasus isn't created this way. Pegasus was created after Medusa's head got cut off, and Pegasus was birthed through the neck area. Hades shows up and is the main villain of the film. I want to let you know right here and now that in the mythology, Hades isn't that bad of a guy. Matter of fact, most interpretations, not all, but there's only a very few interpretations of Hades where he's actually treated decently. But the vast majority of cases where Hades is depicted is almost always as like a villainous role because they try to treat him like Greek version of the devil. But he is not evil. The only bad thing technically he's done, well, he's done at least two things, but one in particular that I do recall is the fact that he fell in love with Persephone, or at least they both kind of fell in love with each other, but he ends up taking her from Earth to live in the underworld with him. But the mom was so upset that Zeus had to come to some kind of arrangement where, because the mom controlled pretty much the seasons, so she was so distraught that it was like winter like constantly in the Greek world, and crops couldn't grow. Most people couldn't do what they have to do, especially certain gods, because they counted on other seasons to have certain things flourish and move, because gears got to turn. So Zeus decides, okay, the girl gets half of the year, the girl gets to stay with her mom, and the other half stays with Hades. So that explains why we have spring and summer where the daughter is with the mom and she's happy, but during fall and winter she's with Hades. This is during time where fall and winter comes around. That's when the mom is sad. So that explains in a nutshell why we have, or at least in the Greek world, why they have the seasons. But Hades is treated like a villain here. It's like an easy go-to villain. But James Lewis does an impeccable job because the animators created Hades kind of like a used car salesman dealer type of dude, which placates to James Woods' fast, quick-paced jokes and wit. So Hades has aspirations of ruling Olympus. So he communes with the fates, and they eventually tell him that in 18 years there will be a planetary alignment, which gives that one and only chance for Hades to break the Titans out of Tartarus, so they can wage their war against Mount Olympus, which already is kind of like breaking historical facts, because Tartarus is guarded by like some like a multi-armed prison guard. Secondly, Hades was influential in caging the Titans with Zeus and Poseidon and a bunch of other gods as well. They'll be the last person they want to work with, regardless if he helps spring them out or not. But like I said, it's like they're taking liberties here. So they also warned Hades that if Hades decided to fight with the gods, he will lose. So Hades decides to send Pain and Panic to kidnap the baby from Mount Olympus, which you would think would be very hard to do. And also the fact that where is the security? Why is the baby near the bed of the parents? Like any normal parent would keep the bassinet near them so they can have like quick access to the baby in case the baby wakes up and cries. It's so freaking stupid. Anybody with a brain would think that. But whatever. I guess they think nobody's too brazen enough to try to do anything to a baby, and I guess they wouldn't think any normal person would be able to do this. However, they should at least not trust too many, because the Greek gods fights amongst each other multiple times. They should not, like I said, this is a Disney property, but mind you, in the mythology, there's a lot of infighting with a lot of them. They would not be able to, even if Hera was the mom, they would not put it past any of the other gods that have any kind of animosity to try something with their kid. So it's imperative to keep the baby as close to them as possible. But Pain and Panic managed to get in, to kidnap the freaking baby, take him to Earth to try to feed the baby this potion given by Hades that strips a god from their immortality, giving the opportunity to kill them permanently. And I'm thinking to myself, why didn't you try to scheme a way to feed that to Zeus so you can easily kill him, and with the most powerful god out the way, the only other threats to you will probably be either Hera or Poseidon, but you're Hades, you're darn near one of the most powerful Greek gods on Olympus. So it's like, I don't know, it just seems like, you would have given it to the biggest threat, not, somebody who is still maybe a powerful baby, but still a baby nonetheless by comparison. But of course, Pain and Panic screw up because the baby didn't finish the last drop, which seems kind of like a very, one of the fine details on a contract that you got to adhere to. One every last drop, but because it didn't finish the last drop because some farmer couple came up and surprised them, so the baby is not immortal anymore, but still retains his godlike strength. He did the iconic move that Hercules in the mythology did to strangle the snakes, but in the mythology he breaks the snakes' heads off. Here he just tosses the snakes aside. The farmer couple manages to find the baby with the god's insignia on it, which is not us, because every god has his or her own symbol that is like a symbol of Zeus, obviously, with the name of the baby behind the medal. They decide to adopt the baby, and this is like, okay, you mix in Superman into this, and I get it, strong man type of thing. It's very easy to do like a whole Superman allegory here, but you can't help but think about Superman adopted by, mortal parents to be raised, because they made a TV show about this, which was pretty good, and it's pretty much like Smallville. So Hercules grew up with his family, which the parents Hera and Zeus had to look on in sadness while the baby's being looked after. But your guys, in the mythology, you showed up and talked with humans on multiple occasions for various different things. Why is it that you didn't come down and talk with, well, obviously they did in the TV series, but I'm just saying, hey, this is our kid, obviously I can't take him back with me like I want to because of the state he's in. So I'm counting on you to look after, and I'll help out as much as I can to make sure you're good as long as you're taking care of my son. You could have done that, but that part is kind of left out. So Hercules grew up into a teenager, and he's pretty much like an outcast to nearby towns because his massive strength caused a lot of destruction because he wasn't like mindful or didn't learn how to control it. So the parents eventually had to come clean about his origin. Don't know why they didn't at no point talk about this, because they choose now to talk. Let's say he's like 18. Like, you would think by 13 or 14 at least you would express this to the kid. So he goes off to Zeus's temple, where Zeus comes to life and speaks to the statue and tells Hercules what happened, and decides, lets him know that you can retain your godhood and return to Olympus, but you gotta learn to be a true hero. So seek out Philoctetes, trainer of heroes, and of course we get this awesome soundtrack to this great film. So Hercules, meeting up with Pegasus after all this time, rides out to an island to meet Phil, who's perving out on some nymphs. And Phil at first dismisses Hercules because after previous heroes he trained, they couldn't go the distance. And you talk about like Hercules and like the Argo and all this other stuff, and all the people he named, most if not all of them, I think, definitely Hercules, they wouldn't be a thing until well after the adventures of Hercules. Hercules came before a lot of these people. So you guys are timelines turned around. Like I said, I know it's Disney property taking liberties, but thanks to some encouragement by Zeus, he decides to train the kid. Eventually, time goes by, and the kid becomes Hercules, and he heads to Thebes to actually go put his training to the test. And but along the way, he comes across a woman in distress, Meg, who's being harassed by Nessus. And of course, he immediately is smitten by Meg. Who wouldn't be? Meg is just like hot. And I did like a YouTube tier list of all like the best Disney princesses, and Meg is very top tier for me. But Hercules manages to take down Nessus, and then Hercules and Phil and the jealous Pegasus rise off to Thebes, while it turns out Meg is actually working begrudgingly for Hades. And much to Hades' displeasure, finding out that Hercules is actually alive and Pain and Panic have been keeping this secret for 18 years, so decides to hatch a plan to neutralize him, since he's technically mortal now. Despite his strength, he still can be killed. So he made a plan for this Hydra attack. So Meg, after heading to Thebes and people dismissing Hercules, Meg runs to Hercules and mentions about two kids are trapped in this gorge. He goes and rescues the kids. Turns out to be Pain and Panic, and without realizing, he removed this massive boulder that's keeping the Hydra at bay inside this massive mountain. It's released, and despite his head chopping, the Hydra regrows its heads. Now, in the lore, Hercules defeats the Hydra by not only cutting off the head, but burning the neck wounds, so it cauterizes so it can't grow back, neutralizing the threat altogether. Don't do it here. Instead, and the look of the Hydra is amazing, by the way. The great use of the CGI. He pummels the mountain to cause like a rock fall, which crushes the Hydra to death. He's hailed as a hero. Now we see a montage of Hercules defeating all these classic monsters that he would have defeated in the actual mythology. Great use of that. And we get the iconic Zero to Hero song, still amazing to this day. But despite, telling his father about all like the accolations and the praise and the popularity, still not good enough, still not a true hero, which displeases Hercules. Despite all his efforts, still not good enough. So we see like a cameo from Scar from the Lion King, who's a skinned animal at this point. And Meg convinces Hercules to play hooky as they go out on a date and, inadvertently create the Venus de Milo. I think that's the statue with no arms. Hold on. We want to get that right. Yeah, I got it right. Venus de Milo. I'm making sure I got that, accurate. So Hades sends out Megara to be the proper bait, and also a honeypot, pretty much, to figure out his. She's the only one who can get close enough to figure out how to take him down. What's his Achilles heel? Pun intended. And she couldn't get anything out of him, which is kind of like a thing in most stories, like not only with Hercules but with this Christian story about the guy with the hair, where he gets his massive strength, because Delilah was his downfall. Samson. Samson was like was the Hercules of biblical Christian mythology, but unlike Hercules, his downfall was the trusting in a wrong woman. You gotta vet these chicks, man. But we all get dodo-eyed for certain women. It happens to the best of us. But Meg is a little bit more sorrowful about it. So Hades decides to concoct a scheme where he kidnaps Meg and decides to, and also the Pegasus, and also inadvertently cause like a fight between Hercules and Phil. So isolate him pretty much, so he doesn't have any resources or backup. And in distress, Hades make a deal. He will, promise that Meg will not be. She'll be freed and not be harmed, but in exchange, you have to give up your godly strength. So, after making sure that Hades keep his word that no harm shall go to Meg, he made the promise, he makes a handshake, and the deal is struck. He's completely mortal now. And then Hades breaks the news that Meg was working for him the whole time. So he's really distraught. Hades goes to break free of the Titans to wage war on Olympus, pretty much conquering it pretty quickly, where all the guys are pretty much captured. Which is kind of weird because all these guys, at least the vast majority of them, came together, took down the Titans in the first place, even though they're minus Hades in that front. Still should be playing enough powerful to retake them again, but whatever. But Hades sends out one of the Titans, a Cyclops, to go make sure Hercules is killed. And despite the fact he doesn't have his power, we shows how Hercules is really a hero at heart, because it's kind of like with in Batman v Superman, we see Bruce Wayne, despite not having his gadgets or his costume, and you see the destruction that Zod and Superman are causing in that fight, he still runs in there and all the debris and destruction to help people, because he's still a hero deep down. Or even in Batman Forever, when Two-Face is holding the entire circus hostage, and he did not hesitate to stand up and admit he's Batman just to save a bunch of people. He's still deep down a hero. That's why I see with Hercules here. Despite everything, he's still, and this is what young boys look for in movies like this. Despite everything, he goes out there with completely handicapped, but knows that he's still got to be a man and go out there and help people. This is what makes him a hero, and obviously looked up to for all these years. But he's still hurt, at least in his heart. His heart broken, so he still goes out there. So Meg decides to get Pegasus and flies off to find Phil, because she knows that he's the only one that can talk some sense to him. So he's bruised up, banged up from all getting bounced around by this monster, who should have, just by one flick, should have killed him immediately. But Phil tells Hercules that giving up is for rookies, which is like awesome advice to give to a lot of people. Giving up is for rookies. So, like, he tells him, I can go the distance, how about you? This gives him that, it feels pretty much like, what was Rocky's little coach, his name was Mickey? Pretty much like it's Mickey, and give him that, eat lightning and craft thunder moment. And he uses his wits and not his just brawn to trick the Cyclops, tie him off through some rope, and causes him to fall over a cliff to his death. But through the collision, a pillow's about to fall on Hercules. Meg puts him out the way and gets crushed, which resulted in the deal being broken, because Hades, because of his hastiness, didn't think this through, because he said no harm, period. So since there was harm done to Meg, the deal's broken. He got his strength back, so he goes, while Phil looks over Meg. He rises Pegasus to Mount Olympus to rescue the guys, and they fight back the Titans. He uses the Wind Titan. Mind you, these supposed Titans are made of elements. They're not actual Titans in mythology. There's no Kronos or any of the other ones that got locked up. But it takes the Wind Titan to scoop up the rest of the Titans that are still alive, toss them out in space where they explode. And he chases after Meg, who dies immediately because the Fates these are not like the Fates. They're some other mythological beings that controls the life and death of people, but whatever. They use their scissors to snip the life strand of a person. They snip Meg. So he goes to the underworld and makes a deal with Hades that if he can reach Meg's soul in the river Styx and get her out, you have to, allow her to live again. So he makes a deal, thinking he's won because the current of the river Styx is like so powerful that even by in his current state, which he's like not full on God, he will age rapidly. But despite all that, he manages not only to get the Meg, he proves himself to be a true hero because he did a selfless act. Now, this is a cool moment, mind you. However, I'm thinking to myself, okay, no other stuff prior to this wouldn't at least maybe half of the stuff wouldn't be considered like a selfless act. He's throwing himself, despite being semi-mortal, he's throwing himself in the line of danger against all these monsters that could easily, if he doesn't keep his head on a swivel, could kill him. And he's putting his life on the line for bystanders all the time. So that's kind of weird that at least half of that stuff could have been considered a selfless act, if not all of it. But this moment is considered selfless. I guess he's saving the person he truly loves, despite his own. Because he's not thinking about being a hero. He's not doing it for the glory or whatever. Not like he was doing it for necessarily the glory from the other stuff. He still was like, doing good deeds. But I guess there's more of a small, but it's still there, an agenda behind it. These acts. Here, he's not caring about any kind of potential praise or whatever or adulation. His main goal is, despite his own mortality, he's going in there to help the person he loves. So I guess that makes sense. So he's full-fledged God now. He punches Hades into the river Styx while the souls are pulling him down like he's getting flushed pretty much. So he brings Meg's soul back to her body, reviving her, and Mount Olympus invites him back to home. But despite, it's like throughout his adventures, he comes to learn that he finally found where he belongs. So he ends up returning back to Earth with Meg to live a happy ever after. Even though in the mythology, yes, he does hook up with a woman named Meg, which would have been his first wife, but because of Hera causing him to go, force putting a spell on him to go mad, he ends up inadvertently killing Meg and the children they had, which resulted in him going through those labors and eventually remarrying and having new offspring. But obviously they can't put that in here. And then of course Phil sees the stars align to look up and see like the constellation that of Hercules, where people are saying like, hey, that's Phil's boy. And you're happy that gets comes full circle. And that was Disney's Hercules. Despite certain things that doesn't align perfectly with the mythology, still so good, man. It is like really, really good. The animation, I love the whole glowiness of the gods because it makes sense. That look is so iconic because you can just tell what this movie is from. Everything behind this is like fantastic. The voice acting is, everything's on point. But anyway, I'm curious to know what you guys think of Disney's Hercules. Leave a comment below, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. I didn't really have time to get to the last because I already went through so many videos I had to do today, and there's still one more a review I gotta do, but I'm gonna probably have to do that tomorrow after work. So I'll wait till then to make sure it's up on YouTube. But I will see you guys soon. Take care. Have a pleasant evening. Peace.